Good morning everyone, welcome to the Severe Weather Chasers Sunday morning update. Just looking at some light rainfall around the place overnight. Most places in the Cairns in the wet tropics coastline receiving between 1 and 5 millimetres. We also had a couple of places receiving a little bit more than that, but really nothing to note and nothing to be overly concerned about. If we look at the Townsville radar, we can see that there's a very weak trough system just off the coast here to the edge of your screen where my cursor is. That's our very weak trough system. Over in Cairns, if we look at Cairns radar, we can see that the trough system lies offshore there as well. We can see it on radar. Not much of that is actually coming onshore, and most modelling has scaled back its predictions for rainfall through this trough system pushing onto the coast, so all those rainfall estimates have been completely scaled back to just isolated showers with the chance of maybe a weak storm here and there. So these images, by the way, are courtesy of WeatherZone, weatherzone.com.au. Very useful resource, particularly for graphical products to do with weather and weather forecasting. If we take a look at what's going on about 700 or 800 metres above the surface of the Earth at the 925 hectopascal level, we can see here that the trough system that we're looking at just offshore from Cairns and offshore from Townsville is just sort of sitting there. It's not expected anymore. It is expected to come closer to the coast. It's not expected to be anywhere near as strong as we first anticipated, and so we are likely to see only very light falls of rain onto the coast. There is the potential for some more moderate activity later on today. These also the colouring here you can see is actual humidity levels at 700 or 800 metres. You can see it's extremely dry out to the west, and that's pretty similar to I guess a winter type pattern with southeasterly winds on the coast pushing this very thin strip of moisture onto the coast, and extremely dry anywhere inland of the coast. So not expecting to see any sort of thunderstorm activity or shower activity anywhere in through here. If we continue through to our next timestamp, which is 1 p.m. today, we can see it even gets so much drier as we go through into the time of day where we would want to see a little bit of moisture creeping into this level. It actually gets drier, and then if we continue on to 4 p.m. today, we see that moisture is really limited to the coastline. So if there's any chance of shower and storm activity, it's right along the coastal strip and not extending very far inland at all. By 7 p.m. And by 7 p.m. we have this trough system pushing a little closer to the coast. We've got a little bit more moisture now streaming in at this level, a long way further inland. So tonight there is a chance for some enhanced precipitation in this area. And if we continue on to about 10 p.m, we see the moisture really coming in into as far west as Charters Towers even, and so we do have the potential to see some shower activity and possibly even a storm or two late in the evening, depending on, I guess, how the other parameters are in play, or how well the other parameters are in play. And that moisture continues then through 1 a.m, through 4 a.m, and through 7 a.m. So if you can have a look now at 10 a.m. tomorrow, we go back into a fairly dry pattern once the lower levels start to dry out. So basically we are looking at moisture coming back into the coastline. Now if we look at how that relates to rainfall expected for today, so if we look at how rainfall is expected to work today, we can see that by 10 a.m, between 7 and 10 a.m, we only have some very light showers on the coast here between, say, Cairns and about Ingham. And that's what we're seeing on radar. Most of the activity remaining offshore with this trough system, but even that activity remains fairly light. If we look at what happens between 10 and 1, we do start to see on that thin strip of moisture right around the North Tropical Coast area, we do start to see falls of around about 2 to 5 millimetres in this region. Remember though, we say 2 to 5 millimeters, but please don't read too much into the numbers. It's more so a case of showing you where the rain is expected to fall as opposed to how much of it is expected to fall. Obviously, if we start to look at 2 to 4 inches over 3 hours, then we start to pay attention to it. But when we start to get these sort of figures, all we need to know is that there's going to be enhanced rainfall potential in this area between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Looking at 1 p.m. to 4 p.m, we start to see that moisture creeping through the rest of the coastal escarpment all the way through to Gladstone or even as far as Rockhampton. We start to see this just very light shower activity, but possibly moving onto or staying on the coastal escarpment, but pretty well anywhere you could see some isolated showers, afternoon showers pop up. There might be a weak embedded thunderstorm in that too. Unlikely at this stage when we have a look at Cape values. In fact, we'll have a look at Cape values now for that same period. Cape is the available potential energy in the atmosphere to see thunderstorm development. If we overlay Cape now onto the coastal escarpment, we can see that the Cape around Kansas is reasonable. You're looking at about 1200 or 1300 Cape in mid-afternoon there around about Cairns. We're definitely not looking at anything developing in the Charters Towers, Hewenden area. But anywhere along this coastal escarpment, a little less potential in the Herbert Burdekin, but anywhere along this coastal escarpment, even down towards Rocky, you can see here we've got Cape values that are getting into over the 1,000 mark. So we are looking at the potential for just isolated storms. They are likely to be quite weak if they develop, but more so looking at isolated convective showers popping up all through this coastal escarpment later on in the afternoon. Between 4 and 7 p.m. we see the tablelands, the Atherton tablelands, are looking likely to be a bit of a hot spot for thunderstorm activity. In fact, so we've got these lighter blue area, which suggests falls of up to 10 to 15 millimeters over the 3 hours, and so we've also got falls extending further towards the coast as well. Over the Herbert Burdekin area, we've got this little enhanced area to the northwest of Townsville, which suggests the possibility there of just some lighter falls of 2 to 5 millimeters, but a little bit more potential for that shower activity this evening rather than this afternoon in the Herbert Burdekin. Elsewhere we see that potential actually eases off between 4 and 7 p.m. and we have less potential now of showers. We're still looking at some around the Yeppoon Rocky, just north of Mackay, around the Bowen area, but we're not looking at enhanced potential, whereas over here in the Atherton Tablelands we are, and even to the northwest of Townsville we're looking at enhanced potential. If we take a look at where exactly we're expecting that, we're actually expecting most of that rainfall to be actually west of the tablelands rather than on the tablelands. This is one of the cool things that we can do with the graphics, is actually really hone in on the areas that are expecting that enhanced potential. So on those ranges just to the west of Tully, we can see a definite enhancement of potential there. If we overlay a little less and we have a look at the blue areas, so just to the west or northwest of Tully, between Ravenshoe and Tully basically, and then around Almaden here to the west of the tablelands. The tablelands themselves sort of look like they're going to be stuck in the middle there between the heavier stuff to the west and the coastal stuff to the east. However, you know, with this sort of setup, there is always that potential to see shower and storm activity on the tablelands. So as storms tend to do, by about 10 p.m. we start to see that all that activity now eases off. There is a little bit of activity left on the base of the peninsula, but all of that activity now becomes very coastal and now is located to the north of Ingham. As we have a look at what Cape values do at the same time, we can see that our Cape values in through here that resulted in those thunderstorms have completely decreased, and we've got the marginal Cape values of under 1,000 now onto the coast. And really for good shower and storm activity you need values that are over 1,000, and we're not getting that at this point in time. So by 10 p.m. tonight everything eases off. So while that eases off down that way, we are still looking at enhanced shower activity. You can see almost a bit of a trough line here using this 5760 line that's lying just very close to the coast, particularly over the North Tropical Coast. So some good rain again, probably anywhere to the north of Ingham, more likely anywhere to the north of Cardwell, all the way through to Cooktown. So good chance of some shower activity developing right along that coastal fringe. If we go to 1 a.m, we start to see that activity, while it does start to become heavier, it tends to push offshore a little between 10 and 1 a.m. And so we've still got these showers that are touching the coastline, but most of it is remaining offshore. 1 a.m. to 4 a.m, we start to see light showers encroaching the coast all the way through to Rocky. That's with that increased levels of moisture at 925 hectopascals and at the surface. But we see some really heavy rainfall out here, but remaining well offshore to do with that trough system. Between 4 and 7 a.m, that starts to push a little bit further west, and it even starts to encroach the coast again around the Cairns area, and then a secondary maximum between about Innisfail and Ingham, just encroaching the coastline there, and we've also got some shower activity through most of the district, very light stuff anywhere south of Ingham or anywhere south of Rolling Stone, I guess. And we've got this little 5760 line, which is just a little indication there that there's a little bit of cooler upper level winds, upper level air, and so we're going to see enhanced uplift in this area. So we are likely to see a fair amount of shower activity off the coast overnight tonight, possibly even grading to rain periods, some of it even getting onto the coast, particularly to the north of Rolling Stone. By 10 a.m. tomorrow, between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. tomorrow, we see that activity finally pushing onto the coast, although in a much weaker state. But anywhere sort of to the north of Ayr is looking like potentially getting some rain tomorrow morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We still have this little pocket of cooler upper level air, and we still got enhanced rainfall out here, but that's now detached from the actual trough system, which is over here and actually onto the coast. So we've got a situation there by tomorrow morning where we should see even the Mackay area picking up some shower activity by tomorrow morning. By 1 p.m, we start to look at more thunderstorms developing inland here to the west of Mareeba, well to the west of Mareeba, and we see continual shower activity, albeit reasonably light, onto the coast here. So we're talking isolated showers that over the course of time are likely to dump, a couple of millimeters here and there. So we're not talking anything overly heavy or anything overly widespread. And by 4 p.m, once again, we see these showers developing a little bit further inland. By 4 p.m, we see a little bit more activity happening just inland of the ranges or on the ranges, as opposed to completely coastal, and the winds should keep them offshore or off the coast, and so keeping them inland, but not looking at anything overly heavy or anything overly drastic at the moment. We still got this good shower activity, possible storm activity even onto the tablelands, but on that coastal escarpment, once again, if you have a look, this 5760, nice little spot of slightly cooler upper level conditions, and when we get that, we get fairly enhanced rainfall anywhere near it. So anywhere sort of Mareeba, Cairns, in a line through to about Tully and west to Ravenshoe, and pushing back to the north then is likely to see some enhanced falls tomorrow afternoon. By tomorrow evening, things ease off again, and we're left with those possible storms well to the west of Mareeba or northwest of Mareeba, and just some very isolated dying convective showers in through the inland ranges near Bowen, close to Mackay, to the south of Townsville around Mount Elliott, and anywhere this way. Further south, we've definitely seen an easing there as well. You can see here at 4 p.m. further south around Yeppoon and Rocky, we're still expecting those showers, but by 7 p.m. they all die out, and by 10 p.m. everything gets back to stable. There's some shower activity just to the north of Cairns, or even getting as far south as Innisfail, but overall everything sort of dies out and the entire region becomes quite stable again. And that's as far as we're going to take it to 10 p.m. on Monday. So we'll have another update probably Monday night, just to see how those that enhanced activity went on Monday, and see if we've got some rainfall totals for it. As I say, we're looking at some shower activity overnight tonight and pushing onto the coast early tomorrow morning. Anywhere to the north of, say, Ayr would be considered a hot spot, but particularly north of Ingham, Cardwell, anywhere north of there is looking quite active overnight tonight and early tomorrow as that trough pushes up. Pushes onshore, and we do see an enhanced shower and maybe even an isolated weak storm in there as well. Thanks very much for watching us today, and we'll have another update probably Monday night. Thank you.